and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bronwyn, and today my head is being chopped off and I don't love that. And today we are doing every single book that I read in 2025. So I read 41 books this year, which I'm very proud of. That's 4 more books than I read last year, and that was a good number. My goal originally was 50, but then as I was seeing like the end of the year, I was like, okay, I'll probably read like 35, and then I got to 40, and I was like, yes, that was perfect, and then I read 1 more book. So anyway, so we are going to go month by month, and I will tell you all of the books that I read. So starting off with January, I read 4 books this month. The first one being Keeper of the Lost Cities, Stellarlune, I don't like that you can see my ring light, by Shannon Messenger. This one is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the 9th in the Keeper of the Lost City series. This is like a guilty pleasure series for me. I've read it since, I think I started it when right before Legacy came out, which is the 8th book. There are now 9.5 books out and 2 graphic novel adaptations of the first book. I believe the 10th one is coming out in 2026, fingers crossed. However, this book, it was a reread. I actually reread it right at the end of 2025, but didn't, or 2024, but didn't finish it till 2025. This one's really good. I gave it 5 stars, but mostly that's because of one chapter in particular. If you want to actually see my first time reading it, I have a reading vlog of it. There's one chapter in particular that just emotionally devastates me every time, that bumps up to 5 star, and nostalgia. Then I read After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's one of my favorite authors. Daisy Jones and the Six is one of my favorite books of all time. And so I've been going back into her back catalog with these ones that were published before her Hollywood series, multiple books in the same world. These ones are not part of that. So After I Do, this one was good. It's about a couple that is experiencing marital issues and like the spark just isn't there anymore. So they agree to take a full, I think it's a full year without seeing each other. It follows the woman's perspective and just like how she feels about her relationship and the doubt, and also just kind of rediscovering who she is when she's by herself. And I thought that was really good, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read a nonfiction book. This was my first of the year. I had a goal this year to read 1 book from every genre, and I did do that. Obviously, there's a million genres and subgenres. It's just the ones that I prioritize in my reading. But this was my first nonfiction book of the year, and that was Heartbreak is the National Anthem, How Taylor Swift Reinvented Pop Music by Rob Sheffield. And this is just an interesting look into Taylor's career. The ending felt a little rushed. And obviously I know a lot about Taylor Swift, so it's hard for me to read books about her because I just know so much of what it's telling me. I think that if you are just like a casual Swiftie and you want to learn more about her rise to fame and just like the cultural impact of her career, this is a very interesting read. And I did learn some stuff. I gave this one 4 stars, but I did really enjoy it. Then my last book of January, I read Keeper of the Lost Cities Unraveled by Shannon Messenger. This is book 9.5. This is the novella from Keith's perspective. I love Keith. He is like one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time. However, this book, I did film a reading vlog for it, but I just had nothing to say, so I scrapped it because it was just kind of boring. Shannon Messenger has said that like she had to make this novella because we had to know what was happening with Keith during this time period in order to understand book 10. And I just have a very strong feeling that that's not true based on what I learned in this book. I feel like it could have been summed up in a paragraph in book 10. However, I'm here for more time with Keith. I love him, but this felt like it didn't need to exist. However, I did give it 4 stars. Like, I might even bump it down to like a 3.75 or a 3.5. Like, it just didn't need to exist, but I didn't mind reading it. So moving on to February, I read 3 books this month. So the first one I read was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the 3rd in the Empyrean series. It's the 4th Wing series. Truly, I feel like this could have been a trilogy. However, she committed contractually or something like that. I don't know what the deal is, but she has said she's doing 5 books in this series, and so she like feels like she has to fulfill that, but I feel like we could have wrapped it up here. This felt like a whole lot of nothing, and maybe part of it was the fact that I did not reread the first 2 books in the series before reading this one, and it had been a while since I'd read them. So the first half of the book I was kind of confused because I didn't know what I should have context to and what was new information. But then the second half of the book I was still confused, and I was like, at this point, what's going on should not be fully influenced by the last book. This should be new plot and new information. so I should not be needing to rely on information that I don't have right now. It was quite repetitive from the first 2 books, not a lot of new ground being broken. Within this book it was repetitive as well, but she always has really good like last chapters that make you want to come back and end on a cliffhanger. I'll probably continue the series. This was a 2.5 star though. Next, onto a romance, How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kwong. This one, I didn't mind it. It was a little like nothing. It had, I think, a lot of potential, but I don't really remember it. So I gave it 4 stars. And then the last book I read in February, this was another nonfiction. This is a memoir, I think. I can never figure out what's a memoir, a biography, and an autobiography. Whatever, it's one of those. This is The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom by Sherry Frankie. If you don't know who Sherry Frankie is, her mother was a family YouTuber, and she has recently been convicted on 6 counts of child abuse, 1 for each of her 6 children. So this is Sherry's perspective of growing up in that house, being in the public eye, and having a YouTubing mom, and then also having an abusive mother who was physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive and not feeling safe in her own home. And there's a bit of religious trauma there, and it's just an interesting read. It's a little heavy, so I definitely Googled trigger warnings and maybe just like the story of what her mother did before reading this. But I did enjoy it. It feels weird to rate someone's trauma, but I gave it 4.5 stars. There was just a bit of the language that she used felt weird, where it felt like she was like, look at all these cool words I know, and I'm gonna put them into every sentence every time you can. I don't want to be reading this feeling like you Googled a thesaurus for it. Then in March, I read 5 books. Betting on You by Lynn Painter. Lynn Painter is one of my favorite authors of all time. I gave this book 5 stars. There are some things like pacing-wise in this one that felt a little off, but I did read it in like 2 days, so. I love the male main character. Just like, he has a favorite Disney Descendants song, and I was like, that's all I need to know. That's it. You're good enough for me then. I liked their relationship. They have like a shared understanding and I don't want to say trauma, but both of them have gone through their parents getting divorced, and he's been through that and she's actively going through that. And I think that their kind of bond over that was really nice. Him kind of showing her the ropes of being a child of divorce. Yeah, I don't remember if it's fake dating or what. I think they're just kind of enemies to lovers. Oh, they do fake date. Yeah. I love Lynn Painter. I love the way she writes her stories. I love like just the vibes, the things that the characters are into are so often things that I'm into. I'm sure Lynn Painter and I would get along great in real life. I'm sure that we have the same movie taste and song taste. And they always come with a playlist in the back. Yeah, it's perfect. 5 stars. Then another book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read Carrie Soto Is Back. This one I was a little apprehensive about because it is about a tennis player, and I know nothing about tennis. I don't care for sports. I'm a competitive person, but not when it comes to athletics. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to understand the plot or relate to the character in any way, and especially at the beginning, Carrie Soto is introduced as a very competitive person, very into tennis, and I was like, well, I can't connect to this world, but we'll keep going because I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. And sure enough, by the end I was like, I would hate Carrie Soto in real life. I would not get along with her if this was a person that I met in my day-to-day. But reading about her and her experience as an athlete and a woman of color at that in the 80s, I want to say, was really beautiful, and just her determination and like drive and commitment, which is something that I don't really have a lot of, was really fun to read. So the premise of this book is that she was the very best in tennis. She retired, but now her like best title is being threatened, so she comes back to the craft to try and beat this new player. And it's about like figuring out when it's time to move on, building relationships, and like appreciating that she was the best, and someone else can be the best, and it doesn't diminish the fact that she is really good at what she did, but also understanding why she feels so threatened by someone coming in and possibly taking away her spot. Like, it was really good, and I really commend Taylor Jenkins Reid for being able to make me invested in something that I will never care about. Then my first reread that's a lie, not my first reread. The first book I read this year was a reread. Then I reread my favorite book of all time, The Hunger Games. I have 3 copies of this book. This is a 5 star, it's my favorite book of all time. If you haven't read The Hunger Games, I really suggest that you do. I don't know where you've been for the last like 20 years. Why haven't you read it? but especially in today's political climate, it is really good to read some dystopian. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. After The Hunger Games, well, I reread The Hunger Games in preparation for this book, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the 5th in the Hunger Games series. You have the original trilogy, and then you have the prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and this prequel takes place in between Ballad, but before the Hunger Games. This is Haymitch's point of view, his games. I was actually apprehensive going into this because Suzanne Collins has not let me down. I love The Hunger Games. It's my favorite series of all time. I love Haymitch. I was really interested to see about his games. But just like the fact that the movie was announced at the same time that the book was announced, and the fact that people have been asking for his games since Catching Fire. Like, when she gave us Ballad, that was something no one had asked for. It felt like something she just felt like she needed to write in this world. This one felt like a fan service, and boy did she prove me wrong. I cried so many times reading this. I have a reading vlog for it, go watch. I'm so excited for the movie. Like, this is just, it was really well written, it was really good. I appreciated the propaganda was a little on the nose, but ultimately I just really enjoyed it, and she's yet to let me down. I should never have doubted her. So, of course, 5 stars. Then my final book of March. So far we've only had 5 stars in March. I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. Emily Henry is a very consistent author for me, where I love her books, but none of them have given me that like 5-star feeling. So this one was 4.5 stars. I think all of her books they're so good, but there's just always something missing, like vibes wise. I really give 5 stars out based on vibes. This is about a girl whose fiance, she finds out he's cheating on her, and so she moves in the girl that he was cheating with's ex-boyfriend. Yeah. And it was good. I really enjoyed it. I liked her personal like growth and trauma. I think her dad left when she was young, so she finds it hard to like let people in, and I really appreciated that coinciding with the romance. I thought it was really good. And yeah, if you haven't picked up any of Emily Henry's books, I'd recommend starting with Beach Read, but this is definitely a really good one if you want a place to start. Okay, on to April. This was not a strong reading month for me. So the first book that I read this month was Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Senior Year Adventures, Book 2, Wrath of the Triple Goddess. It's a long-ass title. This is, so Rick Riordan wrote the original 5 Percy Jackson books, did Heroes of Olympus, which also includes Percy Jackson, did Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. Annabeth pops up in that, but not Percy. Kane Chronicles, which I think Percy pops up in like the epilogue. Trials of Apollo, Percy shows up in that. He had said after Trials of Apollo, this is the last book that Percy is gonna show up in. Any other series that I do in this universe, Percy might be mentioned, he's not gonna be actually there. Turns around and writes this trilogy. The 3rd one is not out yet. I think he released the 1st one the same year that the show came out, so I think it was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm giving people the show, I might as well give them more Percy. So this is about Percy trying to get into university. He needs 3 college recommendation letters from 3 different gods. So the first one, I forget what god it was. This one is Hecate, I want to say? Yeah, Hecate? Where he has to babysit her, like, giant hellhound and polecat. Like, I really appreciate having the original trio back in my hands. Like, I love Annabeth, Percy, and Grover. We have not had the 3 of them together since The Last Olympian, because Grover's not in Heroes of Olympus. So reading this, especially with the TV show, was good. This one takes place the week up to and on Halloween, and then I read it in April, so I think that if I'd read it in October, I would have enjoyed it more. I should have read it in October because it literally came out at the end of September, and I got it right away, so I could have read it then, but I didn't. And I think at the time I just wanted to be reading something a bit more mature. And this is like a children's book, and I think just it wasn't what I needed to be reading in the moment. I'll probably reread this at some point and give it a higher score, but at this point I gave it 3.5 stars. Then the other book that I read in April was Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the first in the Addicted Calloway series, which I've heard people rave about. People love this series. What am I missing? This is about a sex addict who is codependent with her best friend who is an alcoholic, and they are fake dating so that their families don't find out about either of their addictions. And this book is about them realizing how codependent they are on each other, realizing that they do love each other, like romantically, but also figuring out like we are not good for each other with our addictions. And I think I really like the concept. Something about the writing and just the way they write about the characters was iffy for me. It was enough that I stuck around, and later in the year I read the second book, and they had potential. I just couldn't do the codependency, I think. That was not something that I felt like the characters were dealing with in a healthy way, and therefore like I was struggling to read them be in this codependent relationship while actively struggling with addiction. And yeah, I think I can understand why people love it. It's just not for me. I did give it 3.5 stars though. Okay, now on to May. This was one of my best reading book months of the year. So this year, me and one of my best friends, we went to New York, and it was awesome. We were gone for a week. This was like my first like grown-up trip where my parents didn't pay for it in any way. They were not involved. It was just me and my friend, and it was great. It was a like 12-hour bus ride there though, and back. So it actually makes sense that I read a lot. Anyway, so the first book that I read, I don't have a physical copy of. I own it, but my dad is reading it and I don't feel like going to his room to find it. And that is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. So I read this one in anticipation of seeing the Broadway musical. Highly recommend. Listen to that soundtrack. It is such a good musical. My friend is obsessed with it, which is why we saw it. I am in turn obsessed with it. I literally have the playbill on my wall right here. I gave it 5 stars. It's like 180 pages. It's really quick. And like I read it in 2 hours, I think, on the bus. And it was she wrote it when she was 16, and I think it was originally like 60 pages, and then she turned it into like a novel. The story of these boys that are wrapped up in a gang, and just the division of wealth in this town and how that defines them, and how like these boys think that they'll never be like amount to anything even though they absolutely could. They've just been told their whole lives that they can't, and like the kind of shitty hand they've been dealt. Really well written for a 16-year-old. It was lacking in a few places where I was like, oh, I would love to hear this fleshed out more. But for an 150-page book, it's really well done. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I can understand why some people wouldn't like this. It's really good. It kind of feels like The Hunger Games meets The Selection with a bit more YA sprinkled in there. So I really enjoy it. I don't mind when a book feels like other books, as long as I didn't read those other books recently. I've also heard it's very similar to Red Queen, but I've only read the first one in Red Queen, and I read it many years ago, so I don't remember that. But I don't mind that it feels like other books because I like those other books, so why wouldn't I want a book that feels like those? But it's also very easy to digest, and the plot is good, and I really like the romance. I love, what's his face? Kai. I love him. Did I say Powerless earlier? It's Powerful. Oh wait, no, this one's Powerless. Yeah, sorry. This is Powerless. The novella that I purchased then in New York and read on the bus ride home is Powerful. This is about characters that we are introduced to in Powerless, and kind of their behind-the-scenes love story going on that we don't really see because they're not with our main character all the time. I gave it 4.5 stars. It didn't hit me as hard as the first book, but I did think that it was a really good novella. Then I read the second book in the series, Reckless trilogy. This one is my least favorite. It's quite repetitive. They're doing the same thing kind of over and over again. I like the characters. I like their banter. I like the time they spend together. So I didn't mind that it was repetitive. It just ticked off that 0.5 star for me. Then I read Fearless. This is the last book in the series. This one adds another element. The first two, you get a bit of a love triangle, but this one felt like you got more of a love triangle. There was a little like behind the scenes thing happening with one of the characters that you don't get fully fleshed out by the end of this book, and that felt weird. But I ultimately gave it 5 stars. I don't know if upon reading it again I would, but based on my first read, it was 5 stars. Then to finish off May, I went a completely different route, and I read Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I've read Normal People by Sally Rooney, and at the time I didn't love it. I think I read it when I was like 13, and it just wasn't what I needed to be reading as a 13-year-old. This one I enjoyed. I wanted a little bit more character development for my characters, and it ended a little bit abruptly. Ultimately I gave it 3.5 stars. I think Sally Rooney's writing is a little bit hard for me to digest. She doesn't use quotation marks, but I don't particularly mind that. I think it's just kind of the mundaneness with what the characters are dealing with that it's not like an exciting read. And having come off of a YA romantasy series that was very fast-paced, romance-driven, and this one was just so not that it was kind of like abrupt and probably affected my reading of it. Then in June, I did not read any books. I was reading throughout this month, reading a classic. I find them hard to get through. I really enjoy reading them, but just the act of picking it up is hard for me because I know that sitting there I have to commit to reading it. I can't read a few pages and put it down just because of the language with which it's being written. This one, I really was enjoying it and I really wanted to finish it, so I decided not to start any romances or fantasies that I knew I would like fly through while I was reading the classic, because I didn't want to read that, get pulled out of this world of this classic book I was reading, and then struggle to get back in and ultimately DNF it, because it wasn't a book that I wanted to DNF. Okay, now on to July, my other best book reading month of the year. I read 7 books this month. The first of which was Anne's House of Dreams by L. M. Montgomery. This is the classic that took me most of June to read. However, this is my second or third favorite book in the Anne of Green Gables series. The 5th, I believe. It's the 6th. And it was really good. I actually really enjoyed it. I was very encapsulated the whole time. And yeah, this is Anne of Ingleside, not Anne's House of Dreams. I'm holding the wrong book. But I read Anne's House of Dreams, which is the 5th one. Then on my Kobo, my first Kobo book of the year, I read Counting the Cost by Jill Duggar. That's her last name still, right? Duggar Dillard? I don't know. I got very into the Duggar family for a little while. If you don't know, they're the family behind the TV show 19 Kids and Counting. They were part of a cult. Some of their kids have left said cult, Jill being one of them. So it was interesting to read about her experience growing up on a reality TV show cult that was like abusive with parents that didn't necessarily value her because she was born a girl, and just her dynamic with her parents as she left the cult and the TV show. And it was quite interesting. I gave it 4 stars. Then another romance, I read Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is my first book by them. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. There was a few parts I think that dragged on a little bit that felt a little repetitive, but it is dual timeline. It goes back and forth between present day and the past. It's a second chance romance, which I love a second chance romance. Our 2 main characters have a really good connection. I thought it was really cute and I did really enjoy it. And I give it 4 stars. Then I read The Housemaid. I feel like everyone and their mother has read The Housemaid, especially with the movie that just came out. I haven't seen it yet. This is by Frida McFadden. She has like just exploded over the past year, and this book especially, and so me and my friends read it in our mini little book club. This is the only book we've done in that book club. And I enjoyed it. I felt like the first half dragged on a little bit, but I was invested ultimately, and then the second half I really liked the way she did it. I liked the twist ultimately. I thought it was really good little murder mystery, and I gave it 4 stars because it had quite simple writing and the beginning did really drag on. Then I read another Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I read Atmosphere, which I own, but my mom is reading it, and again, I don't feel like going to my parents' room to find it. This one was a 5 star. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's definitely one of my favorite authors of all time. And this one was just so good. It's about a woman who is pursuing being an astronaut / is an astronaut in the 80s, and just her experience with like love and her career and her and family, and just I really liked her connection to her niece and watching this romance unfold. And like there is a bit of a dual timeline going on, and that future timeline / present, I don't know which one's the present, just really had me in a chokehold anytime we cut to it, and the end was really well written. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Highly recommend. I need to tell my best friend to read this book because she loves space and I need her to read it. And then my last book for July was Ricochet by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the second in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I don't know if it's a novella. I hated this book. It is like 200 pages, I want to say. Yeah, it's like 220 pages. No, 280 pages. And it was so hard to get through. Again, the codependency for me, I need this girl to get some more friends in her life, because she has like 3 relationships and they all feel toxic, or like the person doesn't actually want to be her friend. And they started setting up a romance between her sister and her boyfriend's brother, I think, which has like an extremely uncomfortable age gap, and the things they were saying to each other, I think as a joke, made me very uncomfortable, where I was like, she just turned 16, pretty sure you're like 25, this is not okay. Which maybe if I continued to read the series, I'd be like, okay, they wait until she's like 20 and he's older, but I was like, I can't with that. It's like, it says it best on the back. They have a dysfunctional relationship that's teetering on and unbalanced, and they need to find a way to reconnect. And I'm like, I don't care if they reconnect. I'm done with this series. I tried the first 2. Maybe I could be convinced to try the 3rd if someone said like, oh no, something changes there. But ultimately, enjoy it if you enjoy it. I'm sorry I don't like the thing you enjoy. Then for August, I had a bit of a shorter reading month. I only read 2 books. The first of which being Wings of Starlight by Alison Saff. This one is about Queen Clarion and Lord Mallory from the Tinkerbell movie series, more specifically Secret of the Wings. Why did I forget the name? And look at this cover. It's gorgeous. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was very good. The characterization of Clarion does not match my mental characterization of her from the show or the movies. But I think that if you grew up watching the Tinkerbell like straight to DVD movies, you would really enjoy this. It was so nostalgic for me, and luckily like I felt like I didn't need world building because I could just picture Pixie Hollow in my head. I liked their relationship. I thought that it played really well into giving like context for Secret of the Wings. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Everything is Tuberculosis, The History and Persistence of Our Deadliest Infection by John Green. I love John Green and Hank Green. I love the Green brothers. Anytime in school where we had to watch Crash Course, best 10 minutes of my day. I thought this was really interesting. I really like the respectfulness with which he talks about people in general, no matter who the person is. I feel like politically we would probably be aligned. Found this interesting. There are a few points where it gets very technical where it just loses me, but just like the humanity aspect of him talking about this disease was really well done. And just I thought it was like, even though I wouldn't say I necessarily know that much more about tuberculosis now, because again it lost me in a few points, but that's on me, I think, not the author. Just like the understanding of humanity and our like necessity to help one another, and the unfairness of our universal healthcare system, not in Canada but like across the globe. The fact that like tuberculosis is not an issue for me, but for so many people in poorer countries it really is. It was really well written. I did ultimately give it 3.5 stars because it took me a while and the writing was a little sciencey at some points, which I didn't love, but his writing style itself is really good. September, this is my birthday month. This was an okay reading month. The first book that I read was Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover is such an interesting author to me because she's fine. I can fly through one of her books and enjoy it, but there's always gonna be something off about it. I read it because I wanted to see the movie, and the movie was just like, I think my Letterboxd review of the movie was, it was as okay as the book. Cheating, and not necessarily incest, but just like, there's only 5 people you can be with in the world, and they have to have connection to someone that you were married to or related to. And I feel like that's what Colleen Hoover like lives by. Step siblings, got it. Dead husband's ex, got it. Dead sister's ex, got it. But it was fine. I liked the mother-daughter connection. I thought that was good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I appreciated the description of grief, but I think if I'm looking for any of those things, I wouldn't turn back to this book. I'd find another one that has a better representation of those things. Then another reread for me, I reread Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Again, one of my favorite authors. This is possibly one of my favorite books of all time. It's so good. It feels like, this book feels like reading a rom-com, which part of that is because the main character loves rom-coms, but so does Lynn Painter, and that's just how she writes her books. This is a fake dating, childhood friends to lovers, kind of enemies to lovers, but not really. And I just love it. And if you've never read it, you need to read it because I love it. And I reread that in anticipation of reading Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. The sequel to Better Than the Movies. This one was good. I enjoyed it. Spoiler alert, they break up in between Better Than the Movies and Nothing Like the Movies, which I feel like you might have been able to figure out just based on the title. And I felt like the reason that they broke up was a little flimsy, and the character development for our female main character between the first and the second I didn't love. I felt like she lost some of the reasons that I like fell in love with her in the first one. But I love our male main character. What the hell is his name? Charlie? Wes. This is Wes. Charlie is in Betting on You. I love Wes Bennett. Highly recommend this duology. Read any Lynn Painter book and you will be happy. On to October. This book scared me with how bad it was, and that was Fearful. This is another duology in the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. I gave it 2 stars. You have 2 perspectives. One of them is a new character for this duology, or for this, what is this called, novella. The other one is a character that we have from the original trilogy. And that new character, I feel like she tries to change her writing style a bit for her, and I didn't love it, and it made it hard to read. Her like narrative voice felt kind of clunky there, and I felt like we weren't breaking new ground with this. I thought that it was gonna give me those answers I felt like I lacked at the end of Fearless. And I guess technically it did, but I felt like the second I opened the book and read the first page, I was like, oh, got it. I didn't need this whole thing. I didn't feel like I really left it feeling more clarity than when I went in. I just kind of felt frustrated and it felt like a waste of my time, unfortunately. Then though, I read Taylor Swift Style by Sarah Chappell. She runs the Taylor Swift Style account. She has a blog and a Instagram page, and she will go through and like post when Taylor Swift is seen in public, what she's wearing, how expensive they are, if we've seen these clothes before, if they have any, like if the, what are those called, designers she's wearing have connection to any other eras that she's worn them in. It's really interesting to follow, and this book was really interesting. As I said with Heartbreak is the National Anthem, I sometimes have a hard time reading books on Taylor Swift because I know so much about her, but I don't know that much about fashion, and I don't know that much about how her fashion has impacted her like business model essentially, and this was very interesting to read. I really like the way in which she reads or writes. Yeah, just her voice is very clear, very cool how you can see so distinctly her eras of music based on her clothes that she wears for each album. Then I read My Life with the Walter Boys. I think I bought these right after the second season came out, but they took like a month to come into my local bookstore. It was good. I really enjoy the show. They have a bit of that early 2000s vibe where I'm like, is this gonna be misogynistic? Is this gonna make jokes I don't like? And it could have gone there. I felt like it didn't really. Yeah, I think ultimately I gave it 4 stars. It was good. It was really quick. I read it in a day, I think. But I do think season 1 is better than the book. Then I read the second in that duology, My Return to the Walter Boys by Ali Novak. They're both by Ali Novak. This one I think is really where it deviates from the show. The show really leans into the love triangle, which is kind of like a blip in the first book and not really a thing in this one. It's much more just a romance between her and Cole. Spoiler alert. And I gave this one 4 stars as well. Okay, then on to November. I continued the Housemaid series by Frida McFadden with The Housemaid's Secret. This one was fine. It takes on the same structure as the first book, and I didn't love that because then the whole first half of the book I was just waiting to get to that kind of second part where we get our twist. And so it kind of lost me a bit in the first half, much more than the first book did. I have the third one and I'll be interested to see if it does the same thing again. Because if so, I'm kind of like, okay, so you know how to write one style of story. You know how to write the same thing pretty well. Ultimately, I gave it 4 stars because the twist was good, but I did like this one a little less than the first one. Then I read Letters Unwritten by Patrick Ammett. So he is a producer for his sister, Chloe Ammett, who is a singer. She's one of my favorite singers, and me and my sister went to her concert, and they were selling this book that he wrote, based off 3 of the songs on her newest album. It's a really cool concept. I thought that was really interesting, and listening to the 3 songs while reading this was really cool. It's his first book, and you can kind of definitely tell that. I felt like it would have benefited from some more world building and a little bit time spent on each character, because sometimes it ultimately was just like, I'm telling you what this character is instead of letting you live with this character and find out what her characterizations are. But I think for a first book, it's really strong. There are some typos in here, but it's self-published. But I also got it signed by Chloe and her band and her opener, which is really cool. Oh, I gave that one 4 stars as well. Then this one was kind of out of left field. I got it for $1 at my local library months ago. It's called Shelter Belts by Jonathan Dyke, or Dick. Jonathan Dick? I don't know. How would you say that last name? D-Y-C-K. It's a graphic novel about this like Mennonite town and like kind of the religious crisis that everyone's going through. I'm not a religious person, and at the end I was kind of like, I felt like that didn't go anywhere. It tells a lot of different people's stories, but I felt like it didn't really wrap up anyone's story. Ultimately it was 2.5 stars. I was like, I feel like this could be an interesting perspective if this is what you're into, but I'm not super into religion or reading about it, and I'm happy it was a graphic novel. I think if I committed to this story as an actual like chapter book. I would have liked it a lot less. I think I probably would have DNF'd it, but seeing as it only took me like maybe an hour and a half to read, I didn't mind it. Okay, then on to our final month of the year, December. This was a Kobo heavy month for me. Fake Skating by Lynn Painter. My 4th Lynn Painter book of the year. This one I really enjoyed. It's another fake dating. I think that's where she really thrives. I really liked the characters. This is a hockey romance, which I don't tend to love because I don't like hockey. I think there was something just missing about this one for me. I don't know what it is. I really wish I could put my finger on it. I read it in a day. I think that maybe the ending I just wanted like another chapter or two. I liked her characters. I really liked the friend group. I thought the minor characters really stood out, which often with her books, there's not a lot of minor characters, but here we had a good friend group. Our female main character has kind of like a traumatic backstory, and I think that there's a part where we kind of dive into it, but I wish we had like dived into it deeper and really gotten to know more about what happened to her in her past. So I give it 4.5 stars. Then I read Ruthless Vows. This is by Rebecca Ross. This is the second in the Divine Rivals duology. I really love her writing. I think that she has just a beautiful like connection to words, and the words that she chooses to use and describe, it's very descriptive. It's very, I don't know, it's just really pretty writing, and I think it's really, this lighting is really intense, I'm now realizing as the sun goes down. I really like her writing style. However, this book felt entirely too long. Quite a big book, so there's quite a few words on a page, and there's something that like makes it easier to read the more you're flipping pages. I will take like a huge fat book that has much bigger font over a thinner book with smaller font. I liked our characters. I felt like we didn't get enough time with our characters though, and especially seeing our characters interact, because those are my favorite chapters, when our characters were interacting with each other. But I gave it 3.5 stars. Then my last book of the year, which I'm sure so many people know. My voice is going out on me. This was another Kobo book. Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. I have not watched the show yet. One of my close friends is obsessed with it, and I'm going to watch it. I just have a hard time committing to TV shows. I gave it 4 stars. I thought that it was really good. It is quite smutty, which I'm sure if you've seen the show, you know. And I felt like I just wanted another chapter or two connecting to these characters or watching them connect to each other in a not physical sense. The ending was really strong. Or no, that's a lie. Most of the ending was strong, but there's an epilogue. So I was a little disappointed with the epilogue, which that is the last thing that you leave your readers with, so you want that to be really strong. But ultimately, I did like the book. I liked the characters. I thought that their connection was good, and I'm definitely excited to watch the show. That is, I should have had my lighting like this the whole time. This is so much better. So that is it. That is all the 41 books that I read in 2025. Was really pleased with my reading year. If you want to know my reading stats, you could go over to Fable or Goodreads. I'm much better at updating Fable, but I do use both. I like looking back every year on all the books that I've read, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!